Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome to our new webinar. Before we begin with anything, we're going to take at least 1 or 2 minutes for everyone to join. So we're patient a little bit. So hope you guys are not rushing anywhere. But yeah, okay. The number is getting bigger, so it's worth waiting. How is everyone? You can leave us some comments in the chat on the right, just so we know you can hear us and everything is working correctly. Absolutely. Okay, I think we can begin. It's been, let's say, 60 seconds. At least my timer is saying it's been 60 seconds. Okay, let me just unfocus the presentation a little bit so you can see it better. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another webinar by Determ. The name is Shaping the Public Opinion, the Role of Media Monitoring in Politics. My name is Sunčica, and I'm going to be your host for the first 5 and last 5 minutes. I'm a content specialist here at Determ, and we are a media monitoring company. You're going to know more about us in the slides that are going to follow. But the star of the show today is definitely Matea. You can see her above me right there. Matea is a customer success manager here at Determ, and she has a vast experience working with different clients on elections across the globe. Nigeria, Colombia, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Spain, Indonesia, and other European countries. If anybody is from these countries, leave us a message in the chat so we know. Maybe we worked on some campaigns on your presidents or maybe other candidates. So today's webinar is going to be divided into 3 parts. We're going to go through the before the elections, what we do, like the strategies that we would do during and after the elections. At the end of the webinar, there's going to be a Q&A section. So make sure you ask all of your questions, even if they come up during this session. We're not going to interrupt Matea while she's talking, but we will definitely get back to all of your questions at the end. You can either ask them in the chat on your right, the top one, or the question section on the right. It's okay if you put it in either of those. So for today, we expect to teach you everything we know about like the strategies and tactics for people in politics and how you should use a media monitoring tool. Obviously, Matea is going to use our tool to show like all these strategies, but I think this is actually applicable to any other one if you're using anything else. And the webinar recording and the presentation that you're going to see today, everything's going to be available after the webinar. We're going to send you guys emails, so don't worry if you don't catch something or just want to get back to something after the webinar. So that's it for me. See you later. Matea, feel free to take the stage. It's all yours.
Thank you, Sunčica. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm really happy to talk to you today about this topic. The political monitoring was always interesting for me since this industry is very dynamic. As Sunčica mentioned, I have been working with a lot of consultants, agencies who work in electoral process, with ministries, with president's offices, so with clients all around the world. Be free to prepare questions. I'll be glad to answer them later. Before we start, I would like to hear where you're coming from. So from which cities, which countries. So be free to write in the chat. So we can come back to that during the webinar. And let me share the presentation for today. Okay, I see. Oh, from Malta, from Mexico. Oh, great. Interesting. I have seen that some of you come from South Africa, Ecuador. So from all sides of the world, be free to share additional countries, and cities later. So let's start. So you know the best. The job of the political PR specialist is quite challenging. Can be quite challenging. So what political PR specialist does is presents the political candidate in the best possible way. Of course, you need to connect with the right people, produce and send press releases to the right media who will publish it, then follow up with the journalist later. And the main part, I would say, is reporting to your client on a regular basis. So we divided, as Sunčica mentioned, this webinar in 3 parts. The first one would be before the elections. I would say This is the most important part of the whole election and pre-election period, because you communicate with your target audience and get the voters on your side, so to support your candidate. So let's talk more about why is it important to monitor the media in this pre-election period. So definitely, I would say the first thing is to know what is important to people. When I say people, it's voters. So, for example, I have this example from one of my clients who is from a country that was badly affected by a hurricane a couple of years ago, and the electricity network was badly affected by the hurricane. So for people living there, this is something like a big issue. They need this to be solved. So the politician that wants to get the elections there must talk about this topic, how to solve this, so the quality of people living gets better. In some other countries, there are other problems like unemployment, high poverty rate. So the candidate must address these problems. So how we can help here is by doing market research, and by the results you get, you can create the plan and campaign and the plan later. In this example that we will go through, and all the examples will be based on the US elections. So what we did here, we wanted to see which problems are people facing, struggling the most with in the USA. So when doing the research in our tool in the term, also trying to find more sources, the problems that we came with are high cost of living, inflation, healthcare, violent crime, especially gun violence, drug addiction, and so on. So we wanted to do a good research inside the media monitoring platform, and in that case, I used ChatGPT. I recommend you using it all the time for as much as things you can. So I wanted to get some synonyms for healthcare, because people maybe won't use healthcare as a phrase. Maybe they will use additional words that explain the problems with healthcare system. So I put this question to ChatGPT, and then I got additional phrases such as medical care, medical services, medical treatment, and so on. So I put all of these keywords inside the search to get more information on what people are talking about. And then we got these results. So people in the USA, as the chart shows, they say that inflation and healthcare are the biggest problems in the USA, among with violent crime. So the candidates that are that want to win the elections in the USA next year, they should talk more about how they will solve these problems, which programs they will take to solve inflation, to increase the healthcare services quality, and so on. So this is a way how to reach the voters and solve issues that are really, really important for them. The second thing I would say is knowing the target audience you are talking to. So you want to know who they are, where they live, what kind of lifestyle they lead. But I would say most important are their beliefs and their concerns. So everything that you collect here will shape the communication strategy that you will have for this campaign, and it will determine the tone of the public appearance for your client. I think you know better than me, better than us, who your target audience is. So where we can help out is identify where the audience, what the audience is talking about, and where they are talking about the problems. So I would definitely advise you taking a look at the social media, forums, Facebook comments, tweets, or X posts, you can call it that way. So places where real people write about the problems, not like news portals that maybe write their own opinion. It's like places where people are in social media. So you can see here, we made a short research about biggest problems in the USA. And in this phrase cloud, and as well as emoji cloud, you can see some phrases that people use when talking about issues. So healthcare, I mentioned it already, but a lot of people are talking about problems in Middle East, political violence, also some racism problems. So you can, like political candidate, and you as a PR specialist can read more about these problems and make a strategy on that. You will also see here the same is with the hashtag cloud, that also shows that current situation in the country, in the world and other countries also affects what is happening inside your country. Additionally, what you can also get are better insights on the people talking about your candidates, such as gender information. So this research that we show here is for Joe Biden for mentions that are outside of his control. So which people are talking about him. And also one important thing is where the target audience is coming from. So if you take a look at the websites, this is mostly news portals, but you want to concentrate here more on Twitter or X, the YouTube, Facebook, Reddit, forums, so people where places where real people post about the candidates. So as seen here, as you probably know, people like to share the opinion, especially on politics, mainly on Twitter. So this source is also important for you to follow if Twitter is popular in your country. Now, in our country, it's not that popular, but I know from experience in other parts of the world, people like to talk a lot about elections there. Then the third thing would be selecting the right media portals. In some countries, based on our experience, maybe it's the same in your country, some newspapers or news portals are preferring one party, and then other ones are preferring other parties. So in the USA, some media might prefer Republicans, some might prefer Democrats. So before the election period starts, we would suggest conducting a research so you can find out which media outlets are preferring your candidate and which ones are preferring other candidates. You can do that by doing simple sentiment analysis of mentions of your candidate or the party or on specific news portals, or you can do the same for the opponent. So let me show you the example here. What we did here as well as for American elections next year, we analyzed website goodwordnews.com in context of Donald Trump in the last 7 days. You can take a longer time frame if wanted. And you can see here that tone of voice and the sentiment on that specific website is quite negative. And then you can try to do that for other ones or for other candidates and see which media are preferring you and maybe which aren't. Then when creating a database, you would suggest adding as much as information in the context, like their geographical data, media outlets, so it will be easier later when the election period comes for you to send press releases during the campaign. Additional to that, it's also important to target media outlets that your voters consume. That means that you can do the research based on the regions, cities, or states. It depends on the country that you are in, and then you can see where your candidate has the best reach, most media coverage, or most positive sentiment. Let me show this in an example. So for this example, we took American President Biden, and we took a look a couple of states, so Nebraska, Indiana, Alabama, California, and Florida, so a couple of them, to see how much is he popular in different states by number of mentions and by reach. As we can see in these charts, they are correlated, so it's similar. So what we can see here in Nebraska, President Biden has the smallest reach and the smallest media coverage. So what can he do in this election period? He can go to Nebraska. He can talk to people there and see which are their main issues, main problems, and try to solve that to get them as their his voters. Additional thing that we can take a look here is the sentiment for the different states here. What we can see here that the sentiment for Florida is mostly negative. So a candidate in this case could consider cooperation with local Florida media or plan visits to Florida to talk more with people and try to solve their problems. So this is one additional way how you can reach the voters in different states or regions, depending how your country is organized. I spoke before about selecting the right media outlets. So in this case, what you can do here is do this kind of authors analysis. So which authors, which media are talking mostly about your candidate, and what is their influence. So we can see here CNN that they have a large influence. You can see how many times they wrote about your candidate. This is on example of candidate Trump. Then how many interactions are usually there. So this is something that can help out with doing the media list that you will use for the press releases later. So, okay, now we've finished with before the election. Now we are coming to the period where which everyone was waiting for, and that's during the election. So let's see which advice we have here. So first, a social media communication plan. I was thinking maybe to put this to before in the phase before the elections, but I put it here because it needs to change all the time and adapt to the situation in the world and in the country. So social media communication plan is important since in social media politicians are closest to the people. So and people, when I say people, I mean voters. So through media monitoring solution, you can find out the number of followers when, let's say, you post some content in your Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You can see, is that affecting the number of followers? So let me put some example. Your candidate posts to Twitter, and this post can be something that people will love or maybe not love that much, and it can cause the increase or decrease in the number of followers on that specific candidate's channel of Twitter, let's say. And then you can analyze, okay, if we had a drop in the number of followers, maybe we shouldn't post this kind of content. Maybe we need to change the way we are communicating in our communication plan. So this is something that we can help with, how to monitor what was good and what was bad by the content that you push on the candidates' channels. Additionally, the candidate needs to adapt the communication plan according to the situation in the world. So we know that in the world, a lot of things are happening that are maybe not that positive. So with constant changes, the communication plan needs to be adjusted based on the situation. Every post on the social media channel is important. So if something goes wrong, you can lose some followers. Followers, as I said, are voters. So it's good to know which content is perceived good in media and maybe which is not. Also, during the campaign, you can find out if the voters are educated enough on the topics that are connected to candidates. For example, you can track the party name, and then you can track together with the party name or the candidate name the keywords that are something that you want to educate the public with. And then you can see, okay, if people are talking a lot about this, or maybe they didn't get my message, so you need to change it or change the way how you are presenting the message. So let me show you this in an example. Okay, I have one video here. Okay, if you see here, we are looking at the Nikki Haley, the candidate that is pro changing retirement age. So this is part of his plan. So we want to find out how much people are talking about this retirement age change. And what we did here is put in the search retirement age as a phrase, then scrolling around the feed and like seeing what people are talking about. And then what we used here is the summarization, so we don't have to read all of the mentions, like 500 of them, to save a bit of your time, because I know you don't have a lot of time for reading every single mention. And then you get the summary, which you can copy, maybe send to your like the public is not seeing this in the right way. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. So why is this important? Because in that way you can track the effects of your marketing campaign in real time and get the feedback from the public right away. When talking about during the election, I believe that everyone maybe struggled with this at some point, is the candidate reputation and crisis management. So keeping an eye on online conversations, social media, traditional media as well, is really a must to see if there are any changes in the public sentiment, because this will affect the candidate success at the end. But as much as the media can increase the visibility of your candidate, they can also expose you to the public criticism or some not that pleasant situations, so not that positive situations. Let me show you an example here. So we took this crisis situation example for Herschel Walker. He was American Senate candidate in Georgia, and about a year ago, he got tangled in a scandal when the information got out that he paid for his ex-girlfriend abortion. So this was like some time ago. As you can see on this chart, this orange red peak, that there was a high increase in the negative mentions online, and this ruined his reputation. So a situation like this can cause like a lot of negative situations for your candidate. This kind of situations can be connected to the family members, to friends, close personal relationships, or any kind of situation that can happen. So you need to keep an eye on this kind of crisis, possible crisis. So next to personal matters, a crisis can come from competition spreading fake news. That can also happen, unfortunately. So you can react immediately on a crisis that is maybe starting on some channel, or maybe you can react to some publication that wasn't beneficial for your candidate. What you can do here to prevent this kind of crisis, or maybe not prevent, but to know for the crisis right away, is to track the candidate or the party name together with some words that would mean something bad for the candidate. So you know the best which keywords or phrases would that be. Of course, this is in English, but it can be in any language which you use. So it can be connected to fake news or maybe some bad situation like scandal, drama, expose, outrage. So again, I used ChatGPT to get some ideas here, but you better know what can be bad for your client. In this kind of situation, what can also help when you receive this kind of mention for something negative, you can use alerting system in media monitoring solution like spike alerts that can tell, okay, something is happening. You have more mentions than usual, especially the ones with the scandal. So when the crisis starts, then you can use real-time alerts to know what is happening and to be informed for every new single mention that comes up, which is negative. So these are the spike alerts that can alert you when there is a change in the daily amount of mentions. The additional way could be monitoring change in the net sentiment. So if you let's say have usual like average net sentiment 50 and it goes from minus 100 to 100, so 50 it's okay, it's positive, but you get like next day it shifts towards 0, so it goes more closely to the negative sentiment, you can get alerted. So I wanted to ask you here, since you are working in PR, you have some experience with elections, are you using net sentiment as a metric in PR, especially when talking about elections? I will take a look. Sometimes answers come a bit later. Oh, I see someone is also from USA. Then these examples that we are showing here will be interesting for you. So please share your experience with the net sentiment metrics. Let me show you one more example here. It's a short video. Okay, so what we can do here, you can get notified like this in email. Okay, and you want to know what is happening with the candidate, with the brand or the party. You click on the link and get a spike alert overview. So you can see how many mentions you had today in compared to the average, like last 7 days average of the number of mentions. you can get a summary what was happening in the last days. How did numbers of mentions go through time, like hours, or the sentiment, how it shifted with the time different from yesterday. You can also see the locations, maybe where the crisis started at, and top mentions by reach, or latest mentions that maybe caused this spike increase. So all of this can help out to see what is happening with the crisis, not to read every single mention, because I know no one has time for that. Okay, let us go back here. The next important thing we just started to talk about is when I mentioned the spreading of fake news from the competitors, or you can say opponents in your campaign. So you want to know what your opposition says, but especially what they say about you, about your candidate. What are the portals or news sites favoring the opponent writing about you? So you want to know these things. So before I show this example, I want to just go briefly through terminology here. So here we compared the earned channels and the owned channels for the candidate. So earned channels, so posts that are outside of control of the candidate. So what others are saying about them. And the owned channels, these are the posts from his or her Twitter profile, Facebook profile, Instagram, and so on. So we wanted to see here for all the candidates in the US elections, which one are more active on their own channels versus which are more talked about in the earned channels. So for example, for President Biden, he gets 45% of all mentions from earned media, and his posts take only 14% of all posts from other candidates. So we can see here that he doesn't need to be that much active in his own channels because he gets a lot of media coverage, but maybe some other candidates need because they want to increase the visibility in the public and online media. So what you can additionally check here when talking about the competitors or opponents is you can find out which aspects of their campaign get better results with the audience. So you can see the sentiment, the reach, interactions. So maybe check their posts in their own channels to see if maybe their posts get better interactions like likes, comments, shares, retweets. So it's also good to keep an eye on what they are doing. You can also see which PR techniques of your opponents are having better results. So you can do all of that in real time, not having to wait for the end of the elections. Maybe as some idea that you can also do, a lot of people like to say their prediction for the elections. You never know what will happen when people start to vote, but you can do some kind of research of your own in social media and online media. So what people write in comments on news portals, YouTube comments, Facebook comments, so places where real people post, and which candidate they like the most, and maybe you can even predict the results of the elections in that way. Okay, now let's say the elections are over. So what you want to do is you collected a lot of data for maybe a year or more. So you want to analyze what happened and see maybe how this was good for you, or maybe not that good. So you can use this information collected for the next campaign, and you can decide to maintain the media monitoring solution, to maintain the presence in the media, to monitor what is happening, and to ensure the positive sentiment among your voters and the people in the country. So when the elections are over, there are two scenarios. One is if you win, the better one. So from my experience, the agencies, consultants who worked with parties who won the elections, they definitely continued monitoring the situation. So the candidate's reputation, the sentiment. They also want to prevent the fake news, because you never know when the crisis will knock on the door. And if your candidate doesn't win, or even if your candidate wins, you can do the analysis of what was good or what was maybe not that good in the campaign. So you gather a lot of information, like historical data, that you can now compare and do the qualitative analysis. So to see the content you push, how people reacted to that, and also the quantitative analysis. So in terms of numbers, so the number like reach, number of publications, interactions, total media presence, net sentiment, and so on. So you can also see what your opponent did better. So maybe you can prepare for the campaign next year. Let me show you one example here. This one shows the media coverage for Trump, so throughout the year. And what you can see here are some peaks and drops, and you can analyze the peaks and see, okay, what happened on that day? Maybe that caused a lot of negative publicity for my candidate. Maybe we should react in a different way next time. So everything like this kind of analysis can help you prepare for the next time. And what you can additionally do is make a maybe yearly summary of the online presence for your candidate. So you don't have to present all single mentions or articles or posts. You get a summary and the tonality, the sentiment for the candidate. So what was happening around him and how did that affect the election results. I hope this advice that we gave you will be useful for your next campaigns. We would like to hear your experience with elections, with your candidates, and the questions that you prepare. So we can now go to that part of our webinar. Sunčica, are there any questions already?
I'm back to join you on the stage. That was very insightful. Thank you so much, Matea. We are waiting for any questions. There's none for now, but we'll give them a second or a couple minutes if anybody has come up with anything new recently. But that was very insightful. I really love the part that you mentioned at the ending, where you can actually analyze all of the spikes that happened around somebody. I guess then you can differentiate if it was bad or possibly if you didn't win the elections, most of them might have been bad.
Yeah, when you're in this election period, I would say that a lot of things are going on and maybe you don't have time to like sit in peace and see, okay, that is happening now. But when you take a look from another point of view, when the elections are over, maybe you can think what happened and how you might do it like differently at that point. So that can also help out to do this analysis of the whole year or maybe a longer time.
For sure. And even if you're, I don't know, monitoring your competitors or somebody that, did maybe better or worse, you can access all this information about them. And if they did something better than you did. So
yeah, you
I
can
guess
do the same yearly analysis for the opponents. So not just for your candidate. So if you compare your media presence throughout the year and then theirs, you can find out interesting things for sure.
Definitely. I guess there's no questions. If any questions do come up, everybody, feel free to send them forward. I will be reaching out to everybody individually via email. So don't hesitate to, reply back. If you have any questions, I can connect you with somebody from the team to help you further.
Yeah, I'll be also glad. Yeah, glad
Definitely.
to answer them later. Yeah.
We'll CC Matea. We obviously, the event is also available on LinkedIn. So in case you want to search through our LinkedIn page, you can find Matea there. So you can reach out to her individually if you want. I know some of you already have. So we're available anywhere. Like I said, you guys are going to receive the recording of the webinar. It's going to be on YouTube, so you can share it with anybody else that you might want. They're not going to have to register for this event on Crowdcast specifically. It's going to be public, so you can come back to it whenever. But the presentation won't be available publicly. It'll only be in your emails. But feel free to share. This is just, everything is educational, so we don't mind if you guys share it with other people. That's it, Matea. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, good luck with elections when they will come again. So yeah, be free to reach out with any questions. Sunčica can share the questions with me or the rest of the team, so we can connect like that later.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody. If you're interested in using the term, you have on our website, it's an available book a demo button, so you can guys book a slot if you want to know more. No obligations whatsoever. For any additional resources, feel free to check out our blogs and other webinars that we've filmed. there's so much resources and knowledge available online. So check it out if you want to. Thank you, everybody. See you in the next
Thank you.
webinar.
Bye.
Bye.